Morning gang, Matt here with OddsJam, coming to you with two last-minute player prop bets to lock in for Monday Night Football tonight. I got one bet for each game. I think they're both really good. Both bets, of course, found using OddsJam, using the positive expected value betting tool. Betting tool using positive EV betting, providing betting opportunities in which you hold the edge over the sportsbook that you are placing the bet with. The unfortunate reality of sports betting is because of the VIG or the juice that sportsbooks price odds, they generally have the edge over sports bettors. But if you can use a tool like positive EV and find the edge over the sportsbook, it can be very profitable in the long run. I will say, after a couple bad weeks in a row, yesterday was incredible. I had an amazing day yesterday. Everything went really well. My four best bets that I do for every NFL Sunday went 3-1. My picks for the podcast, which if you haven't subscribed yet, would appreciate it if you did. Sweat the Bet are 2-0 so far, with my last bet being played tonight. So if you want to get in on that one, there's a couple bets that we have for tonight in the podcast. So again, Sweat the Bet wherever you get your podcast platforms. But every bet that I place, that Parlay Doc places from the podcast, they all have positive expected value associated with them. So it's an easy way to be profitable when you have a tool like this one. And the first one that I want to talk about is in the Eagles versus Vikings game. And the bet that we are placing is Justin Jefferson to go over 7.5 receptions plus 124 on FanDuel. So I think this one's really good. I'm going to put $75 on this one, about 0.75 units, so in between a half and a full unit. Bet has been locked in, so let's talk about it. Number one, of course, I mentioned it's positive EV. That's the most important part, is the fact that it's positive expected value. The no VIG odds price this at about plus 119, essentially. And I mentioned the VIG is the juice that sportsbooks price up odds. And OddsJam, the power of OddsJam is that it has, it's done thousands of back-tested betting opportunities. And from all of this data, OddsJam identified which sportsbooks were the sharpest ones in terms of pricing different markets, including player props. So with all this information, now that they have it, the OddsJam calculates the no VIG odds using a weighted average to identify what the price of these markets should be with the VIG removed. In this case, again, it's plus 119. And the gap between the no VIG odds at plus 119 and the OddsJam line, the FanDuel line at plus 124 is where you get your positive expected value from. The gap between those numbers is what you get your positive EV, from. So in this case, equates to about a 2.32% profit margin. This basically means for every $100 bet on this play, you could figure to profit $2.32. And a lot of people ask, how can you have a profit margin for a bet that hasn't taken place yet? It's a good question. The way it works is it's basing this on the law of large numbers. So while this specific bet is either going to win and I'll get my profit, I'll get my $168, or I guess my $93 in profit, or it'll lose and I'll lose my $75 in risk. But over time, the law of large numbers, positive EV betting, will work out in your favor and will start to equal this profit margin, because the no VIG odds, so all odds have a win percentage associated with those odds. And if you click this little calculator here, it tells you. So in this case, basically the OddsJam with the no VIG line is telling you that there is about a 45.68% chance that Justin Jefferson goes over 7.5 receptions. And if you look at the implied odds of plus 124, so you go to calculators, no VIG, odds converter calculator, you type in the odds plus 124, that has a probability of only 44.64%. So basically this means that if we place 100 bets, 1,000 bets, 10,000 bets at plus 124 odds, if it lands at exactly a 44.64% rate, if that's how often this bet hits, we will have broken even, which means that any number above this, basically 44.65% and above, any number above that means we will be profitable. And we know from the no VIG odds, based on thousands of data being back tested, that the win percentage on this one is 45.68%, above 44.64. So basically the way that this percent works is over the average of time, over 10,000 bets, you could figure to profit $2.32 for every $100 bet on this play. So I really like it for math reasons, the fact that it's positive EV. I love it for football reasons as well, for a couple reasons. Number one, this is the first time Justin Jefferson is going up against the Eagles, who, for those of you who don't remember, unfortunately, as an Eagles fan, I remember, they passed on him in the draft to draft Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, who had two horrifically dreadful seasons in Philly, was traded, funny enough, to the Vikings. So Justin Jefferson, he mentioned in a press conference that he's happy that he's in Minnesota, but you always remember the teams that pass on you. So he's already an incredibly good player. Now he's going to be extra motivated. Another reason why I like it, Justin Jefferson literally went over this number last week against a better defense than the Eagles have in the Packers. So backing primetime Kirk Cousins is always concerning, but I think Justin Jefferson's going to get hyper-targeted in this game. I don't think the Eagles are going to have many answers for him, so I like him a lot to go over this number, to go over 7.5 receptions. So that's the first one, my favorite one in the Eagles versus Vikings game. The next one that I like a lot is this Treylon Burks to go over 26.5 receiving yards. So a little bit of a smaller EV percent here, only 0.53%, but this is bet at minus 115 on Caesars. So I'm going to put a half unit on this one. Lower EV percent means less money on it, a smaller unit size, but it's still really good. So to briefly talk about the math, I know you guys understand the math behind this stuff now, but no vig line, back tested, weighted average from a bunch of different sharp books, has this at minus 116, and we bet it at minus 115 on. I took this one on Caesars, but there's another reason why I like this one. So if you click into a play, it pulls up all the odds for what sportsbooks are pricing it at. And if you open it up in a new tab, it pulls up not only where every book is pricing the odds for this specific play, but also what they price his over-under at. And what we can see, a lot of books price his over-under above 26.5. FanDuel, BetRivers, BetOnline, another sharp sportsbook, BetOnline, has this at minus 120, has it at 28.5, as does PrizePicks. And then it looks like PointsBet has it at 30.5, and then FoxBet has it at 31.5, a full 5 yards higher. So another reason why I like it outside of that is BetOnline. So like I said, they price his yardage total 2 yards higher than what we got it at 26.5. They also think the over is the more likely scenario here. They price the over at minus 122. They price the under at minus 106, basically telling you that they think that the more likely scenario is that Treylon Burks goes over 28.5 receiving yards, and we are betting him to go over 2 full yards under. Now, with a receiving yardage total this low, though the yards are more meaningful. Like, if he had an over-under of like something like Stephon Diggs has in the 70s, these yards difference between the two books, between the numbers, are less meaningful than they are at 26.5 to 31.5. That's almost a fifth higher at 31.5. So I like this one a lot. I locked it in at minus 115 on Caesars. Another good bet for football reasons, Treylon Burks basically taking over the A.J. Brown role, who was traded to the Eagles. He had a good week 1 game against the Giants, now obviously going up against a better defense, but if he's a good player, I think he'll get a lot of targets. Just needs to get over 26.5, which I think is really good. So those are going to be my 2 bets. Let me go ahead and add these to my bet tracker. I put $50 on this one. I put $75 on this one. And that's it. Those are going to be my 2 bets. Justin Jefferson over 7.5 receptions. Treylon Burks over 26.5 receiving yards. And that's it. So tracking your bets is very important. It's where all this information comes from using the bet tracker. So definitely recommend checking it out. Completely free to track your bets. It's really cool. It tells you whether your bets are red or green in terms of beating the closing line or not. If it's red, you can go and see if you can cash it out, which I'll go on FoxBet and BetRivers closer to game time, see if I can cash these out. But regardless, I do recommend tailing these 2 bets, and that's it. So appreciate you guys watching. Comment on the video with your feedback if you're tailing. Subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel to get all of these picks moving forward, and that's it. So enjoy the Monday night doubleheader, and have a good one.